Hey everyone, so today we're going to look at how I actually painted these Indian ladies using watercolor. So the thing is, we need to actually use the small brush to make these orange strokes, and these orange strokes are what make up the costume on this lady on the right hand side. Right, so using the small brush, I'm just gonna use some of those strokes to make sure that we have that orange in, and it's pretty dry because I added a little bit of water. And with a dry brush, that actually helps you to control the paint much better. So I'm just trying to do all these folds on her knee right there, and just gonna use that small little brush to paint all these different kinds of orange. So again, we're gonna use these different types of orange, like we can combine brown with orange to actually show all these folds on the costume itself, and that will actually make it look more convincing. So I use dark lines to paint the folds in the knee, and this will actually make these folds to be more visible on the knee itself. And I'm gonna use these browns, and when we combine browns with these orange, this will actually help to darken that orange tone. Right, so we have all these different kinds of brown, we have all these different kinds of orange, and you can see that on the right hand side there, it's actually much darker because I added more brown, and that is the shadow area. So now I'm actually moving on to the other leg right there. So you can see I used a lot of all these different dark strokes to actually show the folds, and this is actually done to make sure that we have all these different things. So again, using that brown to do her feet, and then using a little bit of that watercolor pencil to draw a line across. And right now I'm actually moving on to her dress. Right, so here actually what I do here is I leave white the patterns on her dress, and so I use that small little brush to paint all these different kinds of brown and orange again, but I just want to leave white. So you can see right there, I'm actually having all these white shapes. Right, so I'm just going to repeat the same process with different kinds of browns and orange, and you can see right there, actually fill up those white areas with the yellows, and these yellows actually form the patterns on the dress. And again, using all these different kinds of browns, so browns are being added on both sides so that the middle part is lighter because it shows the shape of the body. So I'm just gonna use all these orange colors to actually complete the shirt. So right now I'm actually using that larger brush, and we're gonna move on to painting the red color cloth that she's holding on her right hand, which is on our left. And so right there, I'm actually using this cadmium red. So this cadmium red is a bright red, but we can combine it with darker browns, and we can combine it with black as well. So again, using those very quick strokes, I'm just going to make sure that we have all these different reds that are being added. So you see some parts are lighter because some parts are reflecting the sunlight, and so some parts are darker, and also using the color pencil to help me with some of the details. Right, so that's actually how I painted the red color costume right there. And you can see I'm actually using some of the color pencils to help me with some of all these small little areas that you see right there. So using the color pencil, I'm using this brown color pencil. I actually move on to painting her hands. So her hands, human hands, are a little tricky because we need to have all these different browns, and they consist of a very small area, as you can see right there. So I'm using this dark brown to make sure that we have all these different kinds of browns. We can add a little bit of orange, we can add a little bit of black color, a little bit of red to show the kind of skin tone, and just trying to make sure that we have the shape of the hand right there. So it's very similar to the color of her dress. It is orange, but you can see right there because she's of Indian origin, and so her hands and her skin tone are brownish, and we can add a little bit of orange right there as well. Right, so now we can move on to her hair. So I'm just using this black. It is very obvious that her hair is black, but we can also use some dark browns to add more interest. So using that small brush, I'm just going to put in the black tones first. So using that small little brush, I'm just going to use a little bit of that dry brush technique and a little bit of that, you know, those black paint to actually paint all these different kinds of black tones inside. So after that, just using that large brush to paint a little bit of that larger area, and using the small brush, I'm just trying to blend the ends of the hair with her dress right there, right? So using the color pencil to help me, and you can see some parts of her hair are brown in color and they are not completely black. So using the color pencil, just gonna add in some of the details, and using that small brush, adding in the skin tone for her neck area. And right now we are moving on to her facial features. So I use the color pencil to actually help me to paint the facial features because it is easier to control, and it is quite difficult to actually draw in all these, to paint using that watercolor brush to paint all these details on the face. So I actually use the watercolor pencil to actually help me to draw in all these features, and it's easier to control by using that color pencil, right? So I'm just drawing in all the eyes, and then I'm just going to make sure that we have the nose and the mouth being done, and using that red just finish up the entire face. Okay, so we have the second lady that's being drawn, and so using that same method, I just added in some brown tones for her skin and also her facial features right there. Okay, so I'm just gonna use the larger brush now to paint the folds of her white dress. Right, so even though the folds on her dress is white, right, so this is actually represented by these gray tones, because gray is not completely white because of all the shadows and all the folds, and so by using gray, that will really give us, you know, all these different folds and all these different kinds of volume and all the things that make it look more realistic. Right, so we can see that I'm actually using that gray tones, all these different gray tones, and these different gray tones help us to achieve all the folds that you're seeing right now that is being done on her dress, and that will really make it look very convincing because we have all these very natural folds. So I used color pencils to help me with some of the details of the costumes. Right, so that will actually really help because of the small areas that is a little bit more difficult. So using color pencil, that will actually help. So for this area, I use that small brush to kind of like make sure we have all these dark blue tones and these dark browns, and these dark browns and dark blue tones actually make up the right hand side, where you can see she's holding a piece of cloth right there, and it's supposed to be dark blue in color. So I'm just going to use some of that color pencil to help me with some of the details of her costume. And you can see that the Indian costumes here are really nice because this event right here, what is happening now here, is actually the Diwali Festival, and all these ladies actually dress up in a very attractive way, and so their costumes are really amazing to look at. So I find it a real joy to actually paint all these different kinds of costumes and all these different colors that I actually use for all these costumes. And so now I'm actually using that color pencil to help me with some of the very small details that you can see on our right hand side. Okay, so just adding in some of those details and adding in some of the light brown tones as well. So this light brown is actually done for this part where she's wearing that jewelry, and this jewelry will create even more details that will make her even more attractive because of all these ornaments and all these different kinds of details that we see. And so using that dark brown, I'm just trying to make sure that we have all these details, and using that white color pencil, that will really help us to have all these reflections that make up some of the details, right? So you can see the details are coming out really very nicely right now with some of the, all these things that are being done. And now we can move on to the painting of the bottom part right here. So the bottom part of the costume here, again, it is mostly blue in color, but we're gonna do some of those small little details first. Using the small brush, I'm just gonna add in some of those dark blue tones, and I'm just going to make sure that we have all these, different kinds of strokes that are being added, and just making sure that we have all these small little strokes that will really make sure that we have all these different tones. So you can see that the blue tone actually became lighter from the dark blue at the top, and then now it's actually becoming lighter, so that shows some changes in tones. And then we are using the black color pencil to paint the outline on the right hand side, and then we have this light this blue tones again added using that small little brush that really helps to navigate through all these very small areas and all these details. So I'm just leaving white some of the details. Again, I'm using that blue to kind of like paint the blue areas first, and then adding on the details later, right? So that is how we actually do the costumes. First, paint in the larger area, which is the blue, and early on in the case of the orange woman, that is orange, and then later on adding in some of the details. So in this case right now we are using the brown to actually add in all these different details that we see on her costume. So with that brown and that blue, you can see now that the costume is actually coming alive with all these different things that are going on. And using that color pencil, that black color pencil, we are really adding in a lot more details to her dress right there. Alright, so again, as I mentioned earlier on, these costumes are really nice to look at because of all these very intricate details that I'm using the color pencil, and really enjoy doing these details, because when they actually come out, that will create a very, very interesting and very attractive kind of patterns and also colors that you see. And using some of that pink, some of the orange and some of the browns, I'm trying to do even more patterns, even more of these ornaments and patterns and textures on the costume right there. And when we actually add more details to the costume, it will enhance the entire thing rather than adding painting just the whole thing blue. But with all these very intricate details, that will really make it come alive. So using that brown and that black, we can add in a little bit of those outlines and those folds, and using the white color pencil, just trying to add in some highlights. And then I'm just trying to very quickly add in some of the darker tones as well. So using that larger brush, I just added in some dark blue tones, and this will make up the bottom part of that painting right there, okay, of the figure itself. So the very bottom of that costume, it is actually very black, very dark, and using that light brown, I'm trying to add in even more details on the left hand side right there, and using that brown and that light brown, just trying to finish up this part. And right now we can see these two figures are really coming out very nicely with all these details, all these different colors that are actually giving rise to this amazing costumes that these women are wearing in this amazing festival, Diwali Festival in Jaisalmer. And that is actually how I painted all these different details that make up the costumes, the facial features, and all the things that we see right now. Hey everyone, it's KY Tom here. thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed my video, please hit the like button and comment down below. Do consider to subscribe to my channel for more art videos. Check out the links on the description below to find out more about my art, and I hope to see you in the next one.